Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of the County of Santa Barbara of August 13th. If you'll join me with a Pledge of Allegiance, that's how we begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Villalobos, do you want to start with our TV coverage and announcements?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to the rest of the commission and everyone here. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County of Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV, Channel 20 at 9 a.m. In the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, San Maria, and Orchid areas. Rebroadcast of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays at 5 p.m. on CSB TV Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website as well as the county's YouTube channel and will be available for download in a day or two. Shall I move on to roll call?
Please.
Great. Commissioner Cooney?
Here.
Commissioner Park?
Present.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Martinez? Here. And Chair Bradley?
Here.
Thank you.
Lovely. Secretary Wilson, do we continue with you with the agenda status report, and you can move straight to the projection report?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Our standard agenda has one item on it today, and it's my understanding the appellants and applicants and staff is ready to present on that item today. We do have one item on consent, and depending on whether or not the commission wants to pull that or not, there's just only one item on consent calendar as well. Moving to the projection report. Our next scheduled meeting will be on August 27th. And that is going to be in Santa Maria. And as is noted on the projection report, Commissioner Cooney has indicated that he will be absent that day. And that will be long-range planning, presenting the environmental justice element of the comprehensive plan. Following that hearing, we're scheduled to meet back here in Santa Barbara on September 3rd. And we have two items on that day. We have housing development in the Isla Vista area, a development plan and CDP, and then we have an appeal on that date as well for an addition. Again, that's September 3rd here in Santa Barbara, and then moving down the projection report, we don't have anything scheduled for September 10th at this time, and then our next scheduled hearing will be on September 24th. We have one item on that date, and we are anticipating splitting that day with the Montecito Planning Commission to have a special hearing in the afternoon. In the morning, for the County Planning Commission, will be a presentation by Long Range Planning and a discussion on the streamlining and housing accommodation ordinance amendments and it'll be more of a public workshop. So that's going to be more of an informational meeting on September 24th. And then we'll be doing the same thing later in the afternoon for the Montecito Planning Commission. But those will not be a combined hearing. It'll be County Planning Commission and then the Montecito Planning Commission in the afternoon. And then moving into October 1st, we have no items projected. And then we have on October 8th, we'll be in Santa Maria. And we'd continue the Brick Barn Winery to that date and special events, and the special events component of that. And then we also have the development plan for Quayside H being presented on that date, and that's again in Santa Maria on October 8th. And then October 29th, we'll be here in Santa Barbara. We have an appeal of a single-family dwelling, and I don't know why that's showing twice on there. Oh, I guess it's two different appeals on that date. But it looks like the same project. And that's here in Santa Barbara. And then October 29th, same day, right before Halloween, we do have the general zoning ordinance amendment package by Long Range Planning on that day. So we're getting close to the end of the year. It's going by fast. So that's how our projection report's looking. And then I know we've been working with a couple of the commissioners are trying to do a workshop. We don't have it on the projection report now in regards to bringing some items forward for the recreation master plan. And I'll be working with Mr. Villalobos and staff on that. It'll be mainly as we are looking at a release of the draft environmental impact report and then completing draft ordinance amendments but we were trying to look for late September, early October. I know this is on TV, so I got to be careful what I say. But we were looking for the end of September, but depending on how that goes, it may roll over to October 1st, seeing that there is nothing projected for that date. We may hold that date as that potential workshop.
Thank you. And would that just be like a workshop or an update on that effort?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, that's correct. There wouldn't be any action on that day. It'd be more of a workshop presentation and get input and provide information to the commission and the members of the public regards to the status of the rec master plan.
Good. Okay, and the item for our hearing, congratulations on getting 2 commissions in the same day sequentially. That's awesome. And I understand why you wouldn't want to have us all together on one big meeting, joint meeting, but is that to kind of bring us up to speed with all the things that you had to do per state mandates this year, or is that the later item, is that the later general zoning ordinance amendment package on, whatever that is? It's on Montecito PC for October 15th, but we have that as well, right?
So, Madam Chair, members of the commission, this is a broader streamlining package that we are bringing forward to the planning commissions as a workshop so that we can discuss all of the different changes that we're trying to make in the code to improve the function of the code, to make certain permits more simple for people. So the consultant that we're working with had recommended that we actually have a workshop with both planning commissions to really talk through the types of changes that we're going to be making in the code so we can get a lot of questions answered. And if there's certain things that the PCs are interested in or have concerns about, then we can start addressing them before we actually come back for hearings on the changes.
So the county is doing this on its own initiative,
Yes.
aside from all the machine fire from the state on all the other ordinance amendments?
So there are a number of things that we've been working on, and what's included in some of this stuff is things that are implementing our housing element. So we had to modify our multifamily housing zone districts because they're written in 1982, and they're not able to accommodate the kind of housing development that we have anticipated in the housing element, right? The densities and whatnot. Also changes to commercial zones to make it easier to build residential. So there's a lot of things that we are tracking that we have been wanting to bring up to date because of our code age. And those will be included in this package, and you'll get an update. But I think the workshop's a good idea because it really lays things out for the commission before you have to make any decisions on it.
Okay, thank you. All right, were there any other questions? Commissioner Cooney, your light's on. Okay, thank you for that. So that means we move on to our public comment period of the agenda. This is a moment when anyone in the audience can address the commission for items not otherwise put on our agenda or noticed. I don't have any speaker slips for that, so
Just for those of us online, those of you joining us online, if you'd like to speak at this portion of the agenda for items not on today's agenda, raise your virtual hand and I'll call on you.
virtual hand. I like that.
No virtual hands.
No virtual hand, okay. And no slip, so I'll close the public comment portion of the agenda, and we'll move on to item number 7, which is our informational reports by the commissioners. Does anybody have anything they want to add? Commissioner Park?
Yeah, we can do it. Okay, can you pull up the one with the people in it first? We'll see. This is under the category of how us country bumpkins who live in the North County can help out in the South Coast if people will listen to us. And we had an invasion yesterday led by one of my dogs of Special Forces unit into the 2nd District. That's the North Campus open space. And they have a problem. They planted a great amount of Stipopulchra and have set up some burrows, facilities for burrowing owls. It's being overgrown by Italian ryegrass, and particularly sweet clover, which is the black stuff in the back. So we brought in our sheep and a dog, And those people are all smiling because with the help of my wife as Pied Piper, we were able to conduct a sheep drive across the open space and get them into the place where they belonged. And they're busy eating the sweet clover and not eating the nice green native plants that are there. They'll be there until their work is done. And these are very happy young people because it got accomplished. And of course, we need to look for housing for them, but the sheep can't help with that. And so let's go to the next one. There they are in their enclosure, and the enclosure gets moved every few days. And they're going to be eating the black stuff and ignoring the green stuff, and that's what they've been doing. And right in the middle of the picture is a 10-year-old bitch that I have who is, without a doubt, the best livestock guarding dog I've ever seen. She's not out there to chase coyotes. She's not trying to bite people. She's planted herself right in the middle of the sheep and will stay there and not let anything get near them. And that's the deal. So sorry for invading your district, but I think it's all for the good.
I love it. I also heard that those pups are really good with human protectors. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
anybody ever tries to get near my granddaughter, good luck.
That's wonderful. I love it. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that. I don't think anyone else has anything certainly that can beat it, so we'll move right on to our minutes. We have the minutes of July 30th to review and approve. Does anybody have any corrections or a motion to approve? Commissioner Cooney.
Absent any comments, Madam Chair, I would move approval of the minutes of July 30.
Okay, a motion, and we have a second.
Yes, I'll second.
Do you have any corrections or anything?
No.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion, and a second to approve as submitted. All in favor? Aye.
With one
And I'll
abstention.
abstain.
Thank you. Hi, Commissioner Martinez. Okay, that brings us to our director's report. Our headliner, Director Plowman.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. It's been quiet, I should say. It's board's been on summer break, so I don't have a lot to report from them other than I don't think I've been back to you since they actually adopted the mobile home park overlay. So that was done on July 15th. And all I really have to report is the upcoming board items. And that is, we are going to the board on the 26th of August with the open space element, which is a mandate. It's not the actual element. It is an outline of 3 different possible options on how we could pursue preparation of the element. So it's to get direction from the board on what level of work they want the department to pursue. The state mandated that be done by 2026. We won't make that deadline, but there doesn't appear to be any consequence for that, but we will be starting to work on that. The state also passed a law about the conservation element, and that's, I think, 2028 when that is going to be required to be prepared. The board will also hear the FAMCON pipe and supply GPA rezone on the 26th. And then the Bidwell appeal and the Sutar appeal are both going to be heard by the board on the 9th of September. They moved out a bit. They had been planned earlier. And then we have the grand jury report response. The grand jury wrote a report on housing that was addressed to all jurisdictions on the South Coast. And the response prepared by CSD and Planning and Development will be presented to the board on the 9th as well of September. We are in the process of overhauling our fee ordinance right now. It's a major effort. This is an overhaul of the fee ordinance that was prepared in 2017 when the department moved to primarily being a cost recovery department. So we are revamping that and updating our fees, and that's going to go to the board on the 11th of November. It's a significant undertaking. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Commissioner Martinez, do you have a question?
Oh, no.
Okay. Commissioner Park?
I have something very specific, and it relates to your very last item, the fee ordinance. And it seems fortuitous to me that this is happening. A particular fee I'm concerned with are ZCIs, zoning clearances, under the AEO. And it's kind of mushrooming into a big problem. And if there was some way to have something kind of like a minor ZCI that didn't trigger so much staff review and recovery of fees, it could really make the AEO implementation a lot easier. And I don't want to address that at length today. I just think this, now that you brought it up, I'd love to talk to you more about that. And it seems like maybe we have enough time to play out some ideas.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Commissioner Park, through the chair. We can discuss further and talk about the different project types and
Yeah.
what might be appropriate.
Anyway, thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we've concluded our director's report. Thank you, Commissioner Director Plowman. Got us. Okay, we go on to our consent item now. Do you want to read that into the record? And
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of Ted Tabor, Agent for General Services Division, to consider case number 25 GOV9 for the determination that the acceptance of a right-of-way dedication over a 1 foot by 60 foot parcel at the terminus of Santa Lucia Avenue conforms with the comprehensive plan of the County of Santa Barbara pursuant to California Government Code Section 65402A.
okay, and the way I understand it is that I have no public comment speakers, and this could stay on consent with a motion of approval by the commission without any staff presentation if we so wish.
Correct.
Does anybody have any questions or desire to pull this off the agenda? I see Commissioner Reed poised, and he's thinking twice. Do you have a question?
Oh, it's not a question.
Okay. You want to move to approve?
It's 60 square feet. I move to approve it.
Okay, I'll second. It's in my district. I'll move to approve it as submitted. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're just zipping through here. All right, thank you. Oh, although I have a note, isn't Mr. Schmuckel is leaving the county, I heard. Me. Yeah, so this will be the last thing we see from him. You'll have to change his initials on the projection report, right? Big loss. Thank you, Chris. Okay, let's go to item number 11.1, our standard agenda, if you can read that into the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of appellant Shawnee Bliss Jacobson and Danny and Bill Hahn to consider case number 25 APL 13, an appeal of the Planning and Development Department's director's decision to approve case number 25 CDP 9.
Okay, and before we start our staff presentation, did Planning Commission have any disclosures of Brown Act or previous communications with the public? Commissioner Cooney, your light's on. Do we want to hear from you first? I think so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is a rare instance for me, this matter that the commission will be considering. And I've thought very deeply about it and am convinced that our ethical responsibilities, which we take very seriously, impact my participation in this, as I will indicate. It pains me to have to suggest that I intend to recuse myself from hearing this matter. It is a first district matter of great concern, and the balance of the commission will act in my place, but I will not be here. The main reasons that this appeal presents are involve the members of the Van Wingerden family, and also among those who have indicated their intention to participate are members of the Bliss family. In both cases, I have had actual litigation projects with them at times in the past, or members of the family, and it occurred to me that someone unfamiliar with this matter would be concerned that I was prejudiced to one conclusion or another. I discussed the matter with County Council, and Mr. Stewart indicated to me that he agreed with my inclination. So that being said, I will leave it to the rest of you and wish everyone that is involved a well and thorough review of the application. So,
Thank you. Okay, we will miss you and see you in a couple weeks. Right?
thank you.
Okay. Okay, with that, why don't we proceed to staff's presentation? Unless, oh, I'm sorry, actually, I did talk to a couple of folks before the hearing. Does anyone else have anything they want to disclose? Brown Act disclosures now. I spoke to, not just staff, but I also called Ron Caird, who used to serve on the County Agricultural Commission, and he was a former 2nd District representative. He's a flower grower that I know well, and so I asked him about agriculture in general. And I think that's it in terms of the public discourse before the hearing. So with that, let's go ahead to the staff presentation.
Good morning, Chair Bradley and members of the commission. I'm Steve Connor, and I'll be presenting the appeal of the request to change operational hours for the Valley Crest cannabis cultivation and processing operation. Okay, it is this one. The project site is the approved Valley Crest cannabis operation located at 5980 Casitas Pass Road in Carpinteria. As you can see in this aerial image, the existing property and structure is located north and east of Carpinteria in an agricultural area with multiple greenhouse operations north of Casitas Pass Road. This image shows a closer view of the 15.32 acres project site. The greenhouses on the property immediately east are part of the Sierras Farm cannabis operation, which I don't know if I can, does this point? No? Okay. I was going to point at it there with the pointer, but I guess that doesn't work with this. The greenhouses southwest of the site at 5775 Casitas Pass Road are part of the Rincon Point cannabis operation. Before your commission today is an appeal of the proposed increase in operational hours of an existing cannabis cultivation and processing site. The project is a request to change the operational hours from 13 hours a day at 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. to allow overnight shifts within the existing processing building. The correct shifts were noted in staff memorandum, which outlined that the shifts will be from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., and 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. All shift changes will be outside of peak traffic hours. All parking will continue to be located on site. There will be no increase to the number of employees or volume of product processed. There's no expansion of acreage, and no new development is proposed. The applicant has indicated that 24-hour operations would be as needed according to demand in fall and winter, and not necessarily year-round. Here's the existing approved site plan, which shows the greenhouse and processing building. The designated parking is depicted to the south and north of the processing building. The existing landscape screening along the northern, western, and southern property lines will continue to provide acoustic and aesthetic buffers of the parking areas. An existing single-family dwelling and a couple of accessory buildings to the north of greenhouses are separated from the cannabis operation by an 8-inch high chain link fence. No new development or site plan changes are proposed. The purview on this appeal is only related to a change in operational hours. The land use entitlements associated with the approved cannabis processing and cultivation operation are not eligible for appeal. The odor abatement plan addresses all of the requirements of the current cannabis regulations. The OAP has been certified by a professional engineer and certified industrial hygienist. The applicant has provided a contact and odor complaint tracking system. Under the current odor ordinance, cannabis compliance staff has not determined that odor in a residential zone is originating from this site. There have been no verified complaints related to odor at this cannabis site. Lastly, the processing building is already equipped with carbon filtration. Odor will not increase with the proposed increase in hours of operation, and the volume of product processed on site will remain the same. The noise plan meets the requirements of the cannabis regulations. The plan identifies noise-generating equipment and provides evidence that all noise sources will not create sound that exceeds 65 decibels beyond the property line. The project is expected to include parking area noise during shift changes at 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. due to car doors closing. As mentioned previously, all parking areas are shielded by landscaping along all property lines. The lighting and photometrics plan also meets the requirements of the cannabis regulations. The plan identifies all lighting on the lot and demonstrates that lighting is dark sky compliant, fully shielded, and directed downward. Security lights are on motion sensors, and the greenhouses will continue to utilize the required blackout curtains. The appellants raised a total of 4 appeal issues. The first assertion is the applicant has not addressed multiple issues, even though numerous complaints have been filed regarding odor, noise, and nighttime exterior lighting. In response, there are no active zoning violations on the site. The project will continue to be required to comply with code requirements regarding approved noise, lighting, and odor abatement plans. There have not been any documented odor violations on this site. Under the current Article 2 cannabis regulations, an OAP is required to prevent odors from being experienced within residential zones. Planning and Development compliance staff investigated the odor complaints to verify the presence of odor in a residential zone and determined if the source of the odor emissions was from the subject operation. Planning and Development compliance staff did not determine that the subject property's cannabis operations were the source of the odor being experienced at other nearby properties. The applicant will be required to update their odor abatement plan by March 31st, 2026, or after the Coastal Commission certification of zoning ordinance amendments, whichever is later. No complaints have been received regarding noise. And regarding lighting, a new complaint regarding nighttime lighting was filed last week and is currently being investigated by compliance staff. One zoning violation was opened in January 2022 in response to a lighting complaint. Upon site inspection by compliance staff, it was determined that the exterior lighting timers had not been adjusted for seasonal and astronomical daylight hours. The applicant adjusted the timers and the violation case was closed. The second appellant assertion is that the applicant has paid fines for noncompliance without actually remedying the issue. In response, there are no outstanding violations. Compliance staff confirmed one fine was levied when an inspection revealed unplugged filter canisters, and the applicant was able to remedy the situation immediately. The follow-up site inspection indicated that canisters were kept plugged in. The third assertion is that the change of operational hours would be incompatible with the residential and agricultural character of the neighborhood. In response, cannabis cultivation and processing are allowed uses within the coastal zone and Ag 110 zone district. The project will continue to be consistent with the coastal zoning ordinance. The applicant is required to continue odor abatement in compliance with their approved odor abatement plan. They're also required to ensure that noise from equipment and machinery is less than 65 decibels at the property line. And the applicant is required to ensure compliance with their approved lighting and photometrics plan, which does not allow light to spill onto neighboring properties. The appellants assert that the county should not approve new permits while there's pending class action litigation. In response, staff notes that planning and development has no authority reviewing or validating pending legal matters. The proposed cannabis mixed light cultivation and processing use was found to be within the scope of the program EIR for the Cannabis Land Use Ordinance and Licensing Program. A checklist was prepared. The project utilizes the mitigations set forth in the program EIR, including an odor abatement plan, noise plan, and lighting plan, and no additional environmental review is required. The request to extend the hours of operation is consistent with the comprehensive plan and Toro Canyon Community Plan. The project is an allowed use within the coastal development permit and is consistent with all applicable standards of Article 2 Coastal Zoning Ordinance. In summary, staff recommends that you deny the appeal, make the required findings for approval, included in Attachment A of the staff memorandum, determine that the previously certified PEIR is adequate, and approve the project, subject to the conditions included as Attachment B to the staff memorandum. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant team are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Commissioner Reed?
Right, I have a few questions, and I want to thank you again we had a pretty comprehensive talk about this yesterday with staff, but so I'll review some of that. But then when I was drilling deeper into this, because these issues are pretty emotional, pretty important issues to both sides, since both are kind of exposed to things they never thought they signed up for. Here we go. First, this was a director's level approval, correct?
Commissioner Reed through the chair, yes, that's correct.
So are projects that are subject to director's level approval, do they receive the same degree of review and rigor as projects that will, from the start, appear before the Planning Commission? Could you describe and compare the processes?
Sure. So a director level is typically approved by staff. In this case, the director was aware of this approval. The director is not always aware of every single case that goes through staff approval. One difference could be when a case is considered discretionary, it comes to the Planning Commission, there's typically a staff report, which appears to have more analysis, but typically a staff level approval has somewhat equal analysis. In this case, when an appeal, there are certain issues that are brought up that would not typically be discussed in a staff level approval.
So just because it's at the director's level does not mean it's not subject to the same degree of scrutiny as another project would be. Is that what you're?
That's right. In this case, it's ministerial staff level is typically meets code requirements, and it's sort of a checkbox that staff go through.
Okay.
So to correct it would meet the same level of review.
Okay, so the proposed activity during the expanded hours, particularly in the overnight shift from 10 to 6 in the morning, according to the application, these materials, are those, am I correct in saying that those are intended to be confined to processing activities within the processing building?
That is our understanding after conversation with the applicant.
And how many employees are expected to be doing that work during those nighttime hours?
I would probably leave that to the agent. We did discuss, I believe, maybe a number of 17 was mentioned, but I would defer to the applicant to confirm
So
for
during that,
processing.
the 17 would appear to be quite different than the 3 shifts, 70 each. 17 is a long way from 70, so that's a question that remains. We'll hopefully develop that more when applicant is speaking. Also, it's stated that despite the fact they're going to go to potentially 3 shifts, there is no planned increase in output of product.
That's correct. No planned product volume increase.
Which raises another question we'll have to explore with applicant, because it would appear that their expenses could greatly increase. So I would rather have them elaborate on the benefit of that. Okay. With respect to odor, noise, others, I think you effectively addressed them, particularly with odor. They're going to be subject. What kind of odor control equipment right now is in that processing building?
Currently they have carbon filters, canisters.
So state-of-the-art multi-technology carbon filtration is required by the new ordinance that will be in effect?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. I've got all of these little flags to remind me of where things are. Most of them have been another question. You noted in the report that among sensitive neighbors, there's a house. The closest one is a house, a home, 250 feet away.
That's
I said
correct.
it might be interesting to know if that were one of the appellants.
That's correct. We didn't confirm that it was one of the appellants.
So that person right now, we can't determine if they've been heard from or not.
We can't.
Yeah, Commissioner Reed, through the chair, just want to clarify that we looked at the property ownership records for that house, and it didn't appear to be the same address listed on the appellant's appeal application.
Okay, all right. So not to cover too many different things, I just noticed we're going back, if you go back and look at the original conditions of approval from October 2022, as I said yesterday, it says the operation will utilize a maximum of 70 employees, period. We're talking in this new application of going to possibly 3 shifts, and as it says, a maximum of 70 employees will be scheduled per 8-hour shifts. Well, 70 times 3 is taking it to 210 employees per day. How does this dovetail with the earlier conditions of approval?
Commissioner Reed, through the chair, the project includes the STDMP, the Site Transportation Demand Management Plan, which includes a number of ways to reduce trips like shuttles and bicycles and carpooling. So the approval before you today, which is the increase in the number of daily hours of operation, still includes the same STDMP mitigations as the previous CDP. So those would continue to apply to this new project. That same condition for the STDMP was applied to this expansion of hours.
Okay, well, I noticed finally, with respect to traffic, when I look at the appeal that was filed, the appellant says increased traffic is 24 hours a day is not consistent with the residential zone and the area. And you addressed that. But I also notice in your response in the staff report on page 10, you say the proposed project will not add delivery trips or daily employee commute trips during peak hours. Well, think about it. This is what I went back in and looked at it over again this morning, and this one came out. Okay, you used to have 70 employees. They come in the morning, they go home in the afternoon. Now you got 3 shifts, potentially 3 shift changes. So it's 6 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 10 at night. you have potentially 70 people coming in and 70 people leaving. So you got 140 cars at each one of those intervals. Did you fully consider that when you were evaluating this application? I don't see it stated.
Commissioner Reed, through the chair. So when evaluating traffic impacts, we typically look at the total number of trips, and especially considering the peak hour trips. So AM peak hours, afternoon peak hours. We confirmed with the applicant through the application, their materials provided, that the shifts are not going to be during those AM or PM peak hours.
What do you consider an AM peak hour?
I'd have to look at our thresholds, but 6 a.m. would be earlier than the AM peak hour. AM peak hour, I think, is often 6 to 8 or 7 to 9.
7:30 to 8:30 in the AM and 4:30 to 5:30 in the PM. Sorry.
I understand that, okay. I live in an area right on the edge of the developed area of town, near all kinds of strawberry fields and agricultural operations. And, you know, a peak hour you see for a 9 to 5-er, like most people who work for the county are, and an ag area is a lot different. I mean, we're in heavy traffic from about 5:30 in the morning till about 8:30. So I think peak hours are a little different thing when you're talking about ag, and I know that may not fit the textbook definition, but I think it's a consideration. And also if you, yeah, I don't, but, so I think some of the analysis could benefit from a little additional scrutiny, particularly with respect to traffic. But I suppose I should reserve my other comments for deliberations. But again, though, there are a couple of items I would like to pursue more with applicant in terms of their goal in making this application, in light of the fact it would appear it's going to increase expenses. But I will be quiet until such time as I should proceed.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, if I may speak.
Please.
There's a couple of comments that I wanted to clarify, and there may be an item that comes up either in the appellant, applicant, or public comment today that I just want to give the Commission some information on. And Commissioner Reed alluded to this already. So the first one is in regards to the current odor abatement system that Valley Crest has. I'm not for sure that they currently have the carbon filtration system in. The new ordinance that we have, it's my understanding that they don't yet have that installed fully, the carbon filtration system. And I'm looking at staff to confirm that.
Yes, Chair and Commissioners, they have the appropriate carbon filtration per the new ordinance in their processing building. They do not have the required technology that's required by the new ordinance in the greenhouses.
So, and then I wanted to touch on that. So they're at a hybrid right now, according to staff, that in their processing building, they have carbon filtration, not in the greenhouses. So I want to make that clear for the record so that everybody understands what the current operations are. The second point is, in regards to the ordinance amendment that we heard earlier this year, as a commission is aware, that was submitted to the Coastal Commission for their review. It's not yet effective because the Coastal Commission hasn't acted upon it yet. The Coastal Commission on their agenda for tomorrow, August 14th, they do have an item on there to extend their review period for that amendment. They indicate that they should be able to complete it before their requested extension. They typically extend our submittals for a year, but there's commitments that they've made or indications that they can get that review done earlier. So when we talk about complaints that are coming in, we talk about that new ordinance that we adopted earlier this year. It's not in effect yet, and so staff is currently out there monitoring odor, but the existing ordinance is still in effect as far as odor being observed in a residential zone. And so there is still that conflict between effectively abating odor and monitoring it and doing enforcement until the new ordinance becomes in effect. So we're waiting on the Coastal Commission to complete the review and to certify that. So that's still in process. And so I know that there's still some feelings of frustration with the public, and same with staff on being able to adequately enforce odor, but we're still waiting for the Coast Commission to complete their review and provide comments and have that certified. So I wanted to clarify those 2 points for the commission and the members of the public today as far as where we're at with that ordinance amendment.
Thank you. Were those all your questions? You're done. Okay. Commissioner Park?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Chair, one more thing. Sorry. Commissioner Reed asked a question about the level of review for director levels and items that come directly to the Planning Commission. One of the big differences is the findings. And so under a coastal development permit, the discretion is limited based on the findings, as opposed to like a conditional use permit where you have broader discretionary application to that. One of those big variances or differences has to do with neighborhood compatibility. When you look at the findings for a coastal development permit, that finding isn't there. That finding comes forward in the conditional use permits with the broader discretion. So the action today is a very narrow discretion activity. And to correct staff, this is ministerial because it's appealable. And so it's before you because it is appealable, but there is limited discretion as far as the commission and staff when we're reviewing these things before you.
Commissioner Park?
You know, I made a list of 3 general questions, but now Mr. Wilson has spawned another one in my mind. On our discretion, we're supposed to determine that this is consistent with all county policies, correct? Whether it's CUP or not.
So Madam Chair and Commissioner Park, that is correct. When you look at the findings, there is a finding that is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the policies. So if the commission exercising discretion looks at that finding and there is a policy, then that's exercising the discretion per the findings to be able to evaluate the project.
So for example, we would look at all the policies in the ag element. And I noticed that in Mr. Connor's excellent staff report, it referred to policy 1E, which talks about reasonable measures to reduce noise, odor, et cetera. So we can look and see if it measures up to that, that policy. In fact, that was going to be my last question, but I'll ask it first, Mr. Connor. I see the reference to 1E, and I think it's quoted in the staff report. It's not in your presentation, but if I want to refer to it in deliberations, you're able to pull it up?
Commissioner Park, through the chair, yes, we have it available.
Good. Well, now my questions are going to get a little harder. So first thing, would you go back to slide 4? And I want to focus on something that Commissioner Reed brought up. He asked about no increase in employees. And I want to ask about the no increase in product volume. What does that mean? I kind of think I know what it means, but I'm not sure. What does it mean that there would be no increase in product volume? How do you measure product volume? How do you determine that there's no increase in it?
Commissioner Park, through the chair. So we're stating here that the applicant is not allowed to process additional product from off-site, for instance. So they're going to continue to export the same amount, the same volume of product that they are currently producing on-site and processing on-site. They're not going to be increasing the amount, quantity of cannabis product with these overnight shifts. That's not what's being allowed with this CDP.
And I read the words that there's no increase in product volume, but I'm just curious, what does that mean? What is product volume? Is it the amount of cannabis that's utilized to make products? That could be one thing, or it could be the various products that go out the door. And I don't know what manufacturing occurs at this site or not. I don't know if it's even specified here. Sometimes it's just bags of flour. Sometimes, and I've seen this in other Carpinteria sites, pre-rolls, the rolled cigarettes, so to speak, and other products. So I'm just curious, how do you measure product volume? What does it actually mean here?
When we're saying no increase in product volume, we are saying there is no increase in the amount, quantity of cannabis being processed on site, whether that's pre-rolls or drying or whatever processing the applicant is allowed to do on site. They're not going to be increasing the number of plants or flowers that are being processed on site with these overnight shifts.
So that's measuring the inputs, that what comes
Right.
into the
Right.
process. And how is that verified? I mean, if this is important enough to put in here, that there will be no increase in product volume, I assume it's in the conditions somewhere, then how do we verify that?
Well, our compliance team works very closely with the county executive office and the business license team to verify the volume of product that is produced at these sites.
And that's reported somewhere?
Right, yeah, it's tracked very closely
Okay, so
with the county executive office and the business license.
so here's the $64,000 question, but that just shows how old I am, because that doesn't mean anything anymore, $64,000. But this is an expensive hearing today. We've created a lot of anxiety with this project with neighbors over what will happen on a 2-lane road. I know from personal experience, having a night shift is disproportionately expensive for a company. I mean, it's a major undertaking to do this. And if the point of this project is to not increase the product volume, what's the point of doing all this? I mean, I kind of want to know that as I go through this hearing and thinking about these other issues. Why are we doing this? And maybe you don't know. Maybe we have to hear that from the applicant.
I think discussions of the business proposal is best left to the applicant.
Okay. Let me move on to the PEIR. And, I remember looking at that in 2018, and I hoped I'd never have to read it all again. And I tried to last night, but I fell asleep. But I did get through the project description part, that's section 2, and I got through section 3.7, which was lighting and that kind of thing. And 3.10, I think I got through it all, but I may have just faded out, and that's on noise. And what I was looking for was reference to 24-hour operation, okay, to see if that was covered in the PEIR. Because if it was, then that I would agree that there would be no need for further review. It's been covered. But if there's something about a project that's not covered in the PEIR, then it hasn't been reviewed yet, and the statement of overriding considerations doesn't apply to it because it wasn't reviewed in the first place. So, can you show me where 24-hour operation is referred to in the PEIR? I missed it, but maybe I just didn't try hard enough.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, in our analysis, our CEQA analysis, when we prepared the CEQA checklist,
Yeah.
we reviewed consistency with the environmental review that was prepared as part of the program EIR and did not find any preclusion of operating 24/7. There wasn't any analysis that said these mitigations would not apply to an operation that was operating 24/7. So we have implemented the mitigations as part of the program EIR, and that's why this project is still consistent with the PEIR.
Got it. So we might, and I don't really have a position here yet, but we might reasonably disagree as to whether these mitigations deal with a 24-hour operation but we wouldn't disagree about whether there's a reference to 24-hour operation in the PEIR, because there is none, correct? You're just saying there's not a reference, so it must not be precluded. And I might be looking at it and say, well, there's not a reference, it might not be permitted. We'll get to that. But anyway, there's not a reference. Okay. Well, that's the end of my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Park. Commissioner Martinez?
Yes, good morning. Since we're on slide 4, I might have heard differently, but I thought when the presentation was given about no increase in employees, it was there's no increase in employees per product. Is that what was said? Or did I hear something wrong there?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, I thought I heard when you were saying there's no increase in employees, there was like a per, I thought it said I thought I heard product, or there was some qualification behind that. Did I hear wrong?
Commissioner Martinez, through the chair, I don't think that we have tied employees to product volume. That may be a misunderstanding, but if you can point us to exactly what you're saying, we can try to respond.
No, it's just what I'm thinking, what I
Okay.
thought I heard. So, and when I'm looking at, and if this application gets approved or this appeal gets denied, are there any restrictions on the number of employees that be working this shift within this project? If somebody says, I'm going to do 17, but tomorrow I'm going to do 70, I can do that.
Right, that's a good question, and the project allows, the proposal and the approved CDP would allow 70 employees per shift. That's
Okay.
what staff analyzed, and that would not be considered an increase from the previous CDP, which allows 70 employees.
Okay, and so my next question would be, as it's being presented, it's being limited to the processing building. So is there anything that's restricting in the future, appeal gets denied, they go forward, of moving their activities beyond the processing building, but to other portions, the greenhouse?
This CDP, I'm just pulling up the project description so I can respond accurately. The overnight, this is what the project description says. The overnight hours will include processing activities only. So any activities with employees overnight would not be allowed by the CDP. So the extended hours are allowed for processing activities. So those would take place inside the enclosed processing building.
Okay, so that's the language I'm looking for. Okay, and then I don't know if this is correct, but on I must be reading this wrong. It basically, when it says the appeal issue, that's what the appellants are saying. That, well, no. On the appeal issue number 1, and tell me if I'm reading this wrong, but it says the appellants assert that numerous complaints have been filed against the applicant, including complaints about the odor and noise, and the applicant has not mitigated. Okay, that's the appellant saying that, correct? Okay. Now, there's also an indication that there would be, I could have sworn I read it in here, and I'll look for where I marked it, but noise would be like employees talking in the parking lot and in the loading area. Where is the loading area? Maybe you can point it out using you had this up there, but I'd just like to be interested, where's the loading area? I can see the parking stalls.
Commissioner Reed, I believe the loading area is, if you look at the processing building, it would be at the south end. The entry is on Casitas Pass, which is to the right. And there's a parking area there. and that end of the building is the loading area.
Okay. So and does processing including loading sea cargo stuff or anything like that?
Commissioner Martinez, through the chair, that loading is included in processing. However, the application does not include any deliveries or loading overnight. Those activities would still take place during the day.
And that's the way we're defining processing activities, correct?
Including loading, yes, and actually, I think that loading is included even in just harvesting. If an application or a site is not doing processing, they're still loading cannabis product into a truck to take it off-site. But in this case, the applicant is not proposing to send off any cannabis overnight on overnight shifts.
Now, in October 2024, there was a violation, correct, where these carbon filtrations were not plugged in?
That's correct. Compliance staff found during a regular site inspection that some of the carbon units were not plugged in. So they opened up a notice of violation case. And as Steve discussed in detail in the staff report, fines were levied as a result.
Okay. I just want to make sure this wasn't a maintenance situation. This was somebody not plugging it in where the items were plugged in and they operated proficiently thereafter, correct?
That's our understanding.
Okay. Those are my questions for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. I had a couple, sorry, we're jumping all over the place, but it's important. Mr. Connor, you actually used the term Rincon Point, but everything in the documentation is Valley Crest. So what is Rincon Point? You referred to that as a project reference, a project name.
Commissioner Bradley, I believe that was a reference to a nearby cannabis site. I believe it is the one that, if I had a pointer here, I could probably show you, but I think just south of the word Casitas.
Right, it's the greenhouses. Yeah, that's right, in
There
that
you go.
area.
Thanks.
I think we were just trying to demonstrate in the presentation or point out some other adjacent nearby
Oh,
cannabis sites.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay. And then we've had several questions about the number of employees, and probably we may take a break after this, but I understood it to be 70 people per shift, so there won't be an increase in number of employees per shift. So that is your statement. However, per 24 hours, there would be, per Commissioner Reed's thing. Does that sound correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, we can work that out. And then the clarification of the OAP, somewhere I read here that, I think you clarified it, but just confirm for me that there are charcoal filtration scrubbers in the processing building, but not in the remaining greenhouse. That's why they partially complied with the new ordinance, but not entirely, and they're electing to wait until the ordinance becomes effective after the Coastal Commission certification to bring the greenhouse area up to that new code. Is that right?
It's correct that the processing building has carbon filtration. The greenhouses do not. And the applicant, our understanding is the applicant is preparing to submit their revised OAP, like a lot of these operators. They're finishing these OAPs up so that they can be approved and then get the technology installed before the deadline.
Okay. Because there's been some suggestions in public comment that, they're electing not to comply with the law, but you've explained why that there's a window here where that's permitted, allowed, not in violation. There have also been comments in the public about a class action lawsuit, and I'm just kind of curious about that. I know it doesn't probably really affect our deliberations, but can anyone tell me what is happening? There's still a class action lawsuit out there? We don't know. No comment. And it probably doesn't matter for this anyway, right?
Chair Bradley and Commissioners, I can confirm that the county is not a named party to that suit.
Ah, thank you. Okay, and one last detail. We also had public comment about lighting experienced in the evening or in the middle of the night. And I know there were, blackout curtains required as part of this site. I remember when it came to us the first time, and I remember walking the site, and I went out there yesterday and looked at it. So how is it that staff checks compliance on something like curtains drawn in the middle of the night when it's the middle of the night? I mean, were there any complaints or violations about that topic, or is this a more recent comment you've heard from the public?
Chair Bridley and Commissioners, yes, where there was a complaint received very recently, and I think that there have been other lighting complaints in the past on this site. So compliance staff will investigate that once they have a complaint, and that's what's going on right now with the complaint that was received recently. So they would go out at night and see if the curtains are being used properly, are they functioning the way they should be? So that's part of the investigation that would take place.
There's some stuff we could put on the applicant to say, you have to photo document how they're closed at night on a regular basis or something. But anyway, that's for later. I think that's probably it for my, one last thing. And I know the county has done this a certain way, but other agencies do it a certain way. When you've got attachment A, which is the conditions of approval for the new CDP, and then the original CDPs in our packet, thank you very much, from 19 CDP number 16. There's a lot of detail in the 16 about the floor plan and the project itself and everything. So if someone is going to ask, what are the operating rules if this goes forward, if the project goes forward, the appeal is denied, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen, it would be that person's responsibility to layer all of the permits for this case in, including whatever substantial conformance determination was approved, right? You don't bundle them all into a current one. I mean, how does the public understand that? Because we've got the 19 CDP 16, and then there are a couple other substantial conformance or director level amendment. I can't remember which ones. And now there's this set of conditions. How do we understand what's really on the books?
Chair Bridley and Commissioners, that's a good question. This is something in permitting that happens a lot, where we will have an entitlement that initially vests the use and the initial permit, and then there may be revisions to the permit down the line. So yes, like you said, layering the two permits together and any other minor revisions or other changes to the application would be the best way to understand what uses are allowed on site and what the entitlements allow.
So would staff ever consider just reciting those other case numbers in the updated conditions of approval, like in your second paragraph? Have you ever thought about doing that just to make it easier for the public to track them? Or, I mean, am I opening up a Pandora's box with everything? I mean, you guys have it in Acela. I still find Acela, I have post-traumatic stress syndrome when I have to go into Acela.
Right.
But, if you just had the case numbers, that would be a little bit easier, right? And that would capture everything in your most recent set of conditions. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Absolutely, and oftentimes when we will prepare a revision to a permit, we will tie it to that initial permit in that way through the conditions, and we'll reference the initial permits. So that's a simple cleanup that we can do in this case to add in the earlier permit numbers.
Okay. I mean, that's later. I just wanted to ask if that's possible.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all my questions, and I think we're going to take a brief break now and then go into public comment. So give us about 10 minutes.
So Madam Chair, just clarification.
Yes.
So I think after we come back from break, staff will probably have some clarifications. Then we'd go to the appellant and then applicant and then public comment.
Oh, hello. Yes. Yes. The appellant and the applicant. Yes.
I just want to manage
Yes.
expectations. So.
Okay. All right. I'm just overwhelmed with public interest. Okay. Thank you. Give us 10 minutes. Very good. Thank you, and thank you for everyone's time, because I think there's some details that worked out that we had to work out. So now it is the appellant's time, and we've talked to the appellant about, first we want to have a quick report from our Secretary Wilson.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I think I've been planning because I'm not a math major. And so we're having a little struggle with the algebraic equation in regards to employees. So I wanted to provide information before the appellant gets up, but I believe when the applicant does their presentation, those are questions that that I recommend the commission ask the applicant as far as the project description and the number of employees. Because based on staff's presentation and the question of the commission, it seems unclear what the applicant is proposing. And if the applicant can't provide a clear project description today, we may have to continue it to have a firm project description. But that's for the applicant to understand. I just want to set the stage for the commission and the appellants and the applicant so that we understand what we're working with today. So going back in time, the original permit allowed for a total of 70 employees. And the approved operating hours was 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's the original permit. It's getting confusing when we start trying to do math and divide it into shifts. But if we just start with, they were allowed 70 employees between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. What they're requesting now is to extend those original hours and go 24 hours. What we heard about on break is that the applicant is wanting to have no more than 20 employees during those overnight hours. So doing the math, and if they want to keep those 70 during the daytime hours, then that's an increase of 20 employees. So that would be 90 total employees. So that's what we want the applicant to clarify when they come up for the presentation. What do they want? Do they want to stretch the 70 over 24 hours? And then that means that's a lower number of employees on site during daytime hours, or do they want to increase the number of employees to have this overnight shift?
Okay, so I know that that's information that the appellants need to keep in mind, and you can address it in your comments. We apologize for that clarification kind of late in the process here, but I think a lot of the other matters in the appeals can go forward, and I know you're prepared to talk about that. So why don't we have the appellants come up, and I have agreed to give them 15 minutes. Commissioner Park?
I think what you're doing is exactly right. I just want to interject so that we know exactly what question we're asking, okay? Because I read in the project description, the operation will utilize a maximum of 70 employees. That seems to me plain language. What I heard today from staff was 70 employees on site at one time, which means you could have 210 employees, 5,000 employees, who knows what. And of course, it makes a huge difference. And so that'll be important for whoever's here for the applicant to absolutely clarify.
Okay, Commissioner Reed?
I have one more question with respect to what you said, Jeff. You said, you're looking at the math, 70 employees during the daytime hours, right, which are currently 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. But if you look at daytime hours under this proposal, they got one shift from 6 to 2, one shift from 2 to 10. So there's 5 hours of overlap between what you said and this said. So now daytime hours could be 70 plus 70.
Commissioner Reed, and through the chair, that is exactly why we called the break.
Plus the 9.
Is we want to just start with what their original approval was.
Okay.
And it's getting a little confusing because when we start breaking up the original permit into shifts, the math isn't adding up.
Right.
So that's why we've called a break. And the question, as Commissioner Park indicated, is what is the intention of the applicant as far as number of employees? But we're starting at the 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 70 employees. That's our starting point.
Okay, thank you. So let's begin with the applicant, and I've asked that you limit your comments appellant, I can't believe I said applicant, they both have the first three letters. Giving myself a dictionary pass there. And so the appellants will take 15 minutes total. If you need that, you may not. And please include your name. Yes, yes.
Fine, okay. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to present to you. I'm Tim Bliss, and my family has farmed the same piece of land in eastern Carpinteria Valley for over 100 years. 19 of our family members, including my wife and me, live on the property currently. So I'm a farmer, but I'm also a businessman. And I know how challenging it is to forge a new industry and build and maintain a business. I'm not a cannabis consumer myself, but I'm supportive of the cannabis industry in the valley. I want the cannabis industry to thrive in Carpinteria. Now, we can go to the next slide there. The main reasons for this appeal are, one, 24/7 processing operation is incompatible with our neighborhood. And the second is that Valley Crest is not a good neighbor and a compliance challenge today. And we ask, why would we allow them to expand their operating hours well beyond any other cannabis operator in Carpinteria Valley when they're already a compliance challenge? 24-hour processing operation is incompatible with our neighborhood. And eastern Carpinteria Valley, it's a rural, agricultural, and residential neighborhood. So can you put up there the
Map?
The map? Yeah.
Do you want me to go point?
Yeah, and so if you point out where the their operation is, okay, which it's right there. And then if you go on up, that's Rose Story Farms. They've got how many residences there? 5 or 6 residences up there. And the odor, when it's coming off the ocean, goes right into that valley and just sits there. That's when you got the letter from Patty Delarmy. That's what she's talking about. She's 94 years old. She lives up there, and she has to deal with that. If you look at Casitas Pass, it goes right by that. We'll later show you pictures of what everybody has to pass by when they're going to dinner, coming home from dinner, coming home from the theater, or whatever. But if you go down, show them where the Kate School is. Up there, you have 350 people. This is residential in this area. There's students and families. If you go down to where our property is, okay, we have 5, soon to be 7 residences there. If you go down, show where the McCloskeys are, there's 2 residences there. And then there's, show them where the Sato is, we got a residence there. Look, show them where Wendy and Tim's residence is there. And then you go across the street from there, and there's a total of, no, down below, across the street from Wendy and Tim, right there. There's a total of 5 residences there. So what I'm telling you is when you get a Williamson Act approval in Northern California, it's for 40 acres of property. We are much more intensive operators here. They allow us to do it for 5 acres of property. We have a lot of residential in this area, and the light, the noise, and the smell is not good. So we can go back to the other slide now. So evening, overnight, and Sunday operations are just not compatible with our neighborhood. And the lights and odor are already a problem with this operator. And you increase the hours, you increase the light, you increase the noise, and you increase the odor, and it's all throughout the night. We are not an industrial park. We are a farming residential community. We need to sleep at night, and we need to go to work in the morning, just like any other residential area. And nobody in our eastern Carpinteria Valley, whether it's an ag transfer station, an ag warehouse, flower growers, avocado growers, cherimoyas, cannabis growers to this day, operates after dark. There's one operation that's way down in western part of the valley that can operate, is allowed to operate until 11 o'clock. but this would be a first for Eastern Carpinteria Valley. There is no current permit for 24/7 cannabis operations in the Carpinteria Valley. Again, that would be a first. And so my question for you, what is the compelling reason to radically depart from what we have had normally? And, you know, I just haven't, I have not heard it. If you can go to the next slide. The other thing for us is that Valley Crest has really not been a good neighbor. And they, you know, and so our question is, they've been a compliance challenge. Why is it that we allow them to expand their operations now? I cannot sit here, and hopefully some of the public comment can help, and put together what the planning department is reporting and what we're experiencing. I'm not sure what's going on there because there's been lots of complaints. You know, I was just talking to Danny, you know, there's been recently 7 complaints to Valley Crest, okay? I don't know why these aren't being picked up. I've given a list of complaints back when Doss Williams was supervisor. I don't know where those complaints went. We recently sent them a list of that I had put together over time. I still don't really understand why it's our responsibility to monitor all of this. But in our opinion, okay, it's different. I don't know whether we're on different planets or what, but there's multiple documented violations in our opinion. Even though it's a requirement of their CUP, Valley Crest has never provided neighbors with a contact person or phone number, okay? There's no response to neighbor complaints, no communication, no obvious effort to mitigate identified problems that we see. There's an inconsistent adherence to their CPU and their OAP. Valley Crest CUP allows operations 13 hours per day currently, and they have issues with lighting and odor already. And the current class action lawsuit against Valley Crest now includes over 260 properties and giving what's this, giving you a rough idea of it's giving you a rough idea of the impact on the community. Again, I want to ask, what is the compelling reason for us to allow this change in our area? And the one thing I want to show you here is, you know, I looked at, so on page 8, they talk about lighting is dark sky compliant. I don't know what dark sky compliant is. I had to go in Gemini and ask them. And basically it said to me, the dark sky approved program provides objective third-party certification for lighting products, lighting designs, and installed lighting projects with minimal glare, reduced light trespass, and reduced light pollution. Now, this is right on 192, okay? And it says they're certified and you must restrict the amount of upward direct light and you must avoid glare. Now, you can look at that and you can tell me, but, you know, if you go up there, you can kind of...
You got to stay on mic. I'm sorry, Tim.
What?
You got to stay on mic.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. But if you go up there, those lights, now, they also say they're motion sensors. I don't know, man. I drive by here all the time. I've never seen them off, so I don't know what's running around in their parking lot, but they're always on. If you go over to the left, now, with other growers, that top area, we always remember as being dark, you know, so I don't know what this is, whether it's compliant or not compliant, but this is, in my opinion, light pollution. And, you know, we have animals at night. We have owl boxes, which we use and owls, which we use for rodent control, and it upsets all of that. And so I'd like to conclude with just, you know, one final statement, and that is one of the beauties of Carpinteria, and especially our eastern end of the valley, is the mutual respect and commitment to community which allows us to work together to solve issues. Calavo has an agricultural transfer station in the area. They're always in contact with neighbors. They're very responsive, and they've agreed to operate only 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays and half days on Saturday. The nearby Kate School, they do 24/7 sound monitoring. They're very neighborly and they're responsive. Sarah's Farms, if we can go back to Sarah's Farms is, if you can go back to the picture of the map, which is directly the neighbor of Valley Crest. They're responsive, they work with us, and we had a little bit of friction initially, but now that we've got all the scrubbers figured, but they were always willing to meet with us. They always reached out to us, and we constantly had a relationship. Saris doesn't operate after, and none of these people, Saris doesn't operate after dark. By communicating and respecting each other's objectives, we've kept our end of the valley special and a wonderful place to farm, raise kids and grandkids, and live. 40 or 50 years ago, neighbors, community members, planning commissioners, the Board of Supervisors, and the Van Wingerden family worked together to stop further development of greenhouses in eastern Carpinteria Valley, everything east of Hendy's Corner. And 5 greenhouses were grandfathered in, the current Valley Crest facility being one of them. It has worked beautifully and has preserved our quiet, rural, agricultural, yet residential way of life. We truly believe this is another opportunity for all of us to work together to set limits and maintain reasonable operating hours and prevent the industrialization of our end of the valley. And I thank you for listening, and I thank you for seriously considering our appeal. Now, how much more time do we have?
3.23 seconds,
Okay,
3.23 minutes.
Can you read your letter? Yeah. So I'd like Danny to then read a letter that was actually written by her husband, but he's the only doctor on call right now, so he wasn't able to make it. Oh, sorry, I got away from this again.
That's okay. And Ms. Hahn, just make sure you include your name for the record.
I'm Danielle Del Army Hahn, and this is from my husband, Dr. William Hahn.
And you own what property?
We own Rose Story Farm, which is directly, we share a property line with Valley Crest.
Okay, great.
And the largest residence on our home is within 300 feet, I believe, of the greenhouse.
Okay, so your time starts now.
I am writing to support the appeal, which concerns a permit to increase the hours of operation of the Valley Crest cannabis operation. I live directly to the north of their current cultivation and processing facility, sharing a property line. Over the last year, it has become very apparent that the Valley Crest operators are not interested in being good neighbors, which has always been a very important and essential part of living in the Carpinteria Valley. Furthermore, they are not interested in mitigating issues as they develop. Their current operation has a significant negative and adverse effect on the ability of both me and my family to enjoy our property. It has created the need for me to devote significant time, energy, money, and enterprise to dealing with problems relating to their operation. They regularly ignore the limits of their current permits, and unfortunately, the county regulatory system has been lacking in terms of enforcement. There are daily problems with noxious odors emanating from the Valley Crest operation and significant frustrations for many of us as we attempt to work through the current complaint process. Their request to increase their operation to 24/7, which would allow them to increase the throughput in their production processing facility, has no place next to my home, let alone in the Carpinteria Valley. Although the cultivation of cannabis, even hydroponically in a greenhouse, can be thought of as a type of agriculture, the subsequent processing of the product is clearly an industrial, not a farming application. Given the daily intrusion of their current operation, increasing the hours of their operation will only add to the negative impact on the surrounding properties. Increasing the hours of operation to include processing throughout the night will clearly increase the impact on all of us who live in this neighborhood. There will be more problems with odor, as well as significantly more noise and light pollution. Although not stated in their permit application, it is clear that any additional hours of operation will be driven by the processing of increased amounts of cannabis, which is sourced off-site, which in turn increases vehicular traffic with attendant congestion, noise, and potential for conflict. Lest this sounds like an anti-cannabis rant, I would point out that I was born and raised on a farm and have always been enthusiastic about the farming ethos and lifestyle, including the production of cannabis. Over the past 30 years, my wife and I have created a nationally celebrated rose farm here in the Carpinteria Valley. Many of our neighbors are involved in cannabis production, and we have worked together to solve problems in a very reasonable fashion. Unfortunately, out-of-town owners, operators of Valley Crest have consistently disregarded attempts to reach any type of solution to the problems of their makings. Despite specific regulations, they are never available to handle odor complaints. They refuse to provide an available contact person, and they consistently fail to provide even the minimum amount of follow-up when complaints have been filed. To reward this behavior by them to increase their hours of operation would be ludicrous. Nighttime is for sleeping. Both I and my neighbors use that time to rest, rejuvenate, and get set for the next day. Sundays are for relaxing and enjoyment of our homes and properties. Most of the time, common sense, good manners, concern over others, and the culture of a time and place are sufficient to steer behavior. Occasionally, however, government entities are needed to provide guidelines and enforce regulations. There were good and obvious reasons that limitations were put on the hours of operations when cannabis production and processing were initially
Ms.
permitted.
Hunt, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it
I
up.
have one
here.
sentence.
Okay.
Do not open the Pandora's box of 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operations. Not only is this not fair to the surrounding neighborhoods, almost certainly greater problems would be forthcoming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one question for you.
Well, actually, two questions.
okay.
How do you spell Ceres?
CERES.
Oh, like series.
Yeah.
Okay, second question. Dr. Hahn, is he a gastroenterologist?
He is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And on call right now. Okay, thank you very much. With that, we go to the applicant's time. And when it appeals, we normally give you 15 minutes, but you only have one speaker, so I'm hoping you can make it less than that. Include your name and position, please.
Absolutely. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Benjamin Warner, and I am the authorized representative for Valley Crest Farms. I have led VCF's licensing and compliance and regulatory affairs since October 2023, specifically brought in by ownership to reset and reprioritize compliance within the operation. I thank you for your time and the opportunity to be heard this morning. I've elected last minute not to include a PowerPoint presentation so as not to overcomplicate or distract from what I think is a simple conversation about a very narrow request before you. Valley Crest seeks authorization for continuous interior processing in the existing fully enclosed processing building only. We are not extending greenhouse hours, increasing canopy size or operational footprint, changing exterior equipment or lighting, altering shipment or delivery windows, or modifying the site traffic plan. It is the same work in the same enclosed building under the same approved odor controls, simply at different times as needed. The planning staff's approval is fully consistent with the county-approved odor abatement plan for VCF, Chapter 50 performance standards, and all DCC requirements. We respectfully ask you to affirm the county's approval of 24/7 processing activities. First, the regulatory and technical foundation of this request is sound. Specific to Chapter 50 in the OAP, our processing occurs entirely inside an enclosed building served by 20 carbon filtration units, which currently exceeds the county-approved OAP requirements of 5. Enabling round-the-clock processing reduces on-site accumulation of biomass and allows immediate response if any odor concerns from processing were to arise. Independent county assessments confirmed during odor compliance inspections that VCF system design and performance were effectively containing and eliminating odor, including in July 2024 and October 2024. A geosyntech assessment in July found that odor emissions were compliant at the time of inspection, and equipment and design were compliant, and specific maintenance tasks were identified I'm assuming that you have the record of these assessments before you. There are maps and great little figures that kind of show that there's really no odor impact around the greenhouses, on the property lines, and especially not at the processing facility. The record shows that we have promptly responded to any findings from the county and made iterative improvements every time, exactly what Chapter 50 and the OAP require of us. In regards to state requirements, the request is consistent with existing state standards set for processors. Nothing in the DCC requirements prohibits the processor from operating continuously. In fact, the DCC does not impose hours of operations requirements on processors at all. I can't hear you. Excuse me, sorry.
I think you just might need to lean forward toward the mic a little
Got
bit.
it. Should I reverse? We good to go? No? Okay, great. In regards to forthcoming odor standards, the county's new multi-technology carbon filtration requirements take effect in March 2026. We are actively evaluating qualified vendors and engineers now, so that's the selected solution is certified effective. The scheduling change complements that pathway by improving odor management today while we complete those investments for the greenhouse. The core of why we're requesting this change is that inventory dwell time matters, and the processing building is the right and only place to extend hours. Odor potential around processing, if any, is driven by how long plant material sits unprocessed and how it is handled. Today, we hold approximately 19,000 pounds of harvested material and 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of dried, unprocessed backlog on any given week. Currently, with one shift between 7 and 3:30 p.m., throughput is just under 300 pounds per day. That cadence stretches delivery times to market and increases any would-be risk odor impact offsite. Allowing a second or third shift inside the processing building does not change what we do. It compresses dwell time. At roughly 300 pounds per day per shift, a second or third shift enables VCF to compress timelines dramatically. Backlog clearance can drop from weeks to just a few days, and total storage duration from 2 months to about 3 weeks. The processing building is designed for this specifically. It's enclosed with its workspaces are all enclosed in carbon filtration operating whenever processing occurs, all as set out in the approved OAP. We are not proposing that we'd operate 24/7, 365 days out of the year, rather that we require the authorization to do so to appropriately respond on a periodic basis to several factors, including but not limited to labor availability, seasonal climate, and market-based supply-demand dynamics. No new external impacts are anticipated. We are talking about interior hours in an existing building. There is no credible pathway for new offsite effects. Noise remains within the building envelope. We are not adding or utilizing outdoor equipment. Lighting outside is unchanged. Interior lighting does not create offsite glare. I have just become aware of the offsite impact. I would like to talk to the appellants about mitigating that. I was not aware of it. Traffic and delivery windows remain unchanged. We are not proposing nighttime harvest shipments or deliveries. No additional headcount. We typically have less than 20 employees on site at any time, although we are permitted for 70. No change to canopy size or site design. No cultivation overnight whatsoever. Complaint handling continues per the OAP. We log, we investigate, and we document any good faith verifiable complaints. County records referenced in the assessment indicate no portal complaints specific to the processing operation. And one assessment attributed any faint roadside odor to a different operation south of VCF based on wind direction. That assessment is consistent with our position. The processing building run in compliance with the OAP is not a driver of community odor. In the interest of the public, approving 24/7 processing advances several county goals. Faster conversion of work in process biomass reduces waste, helps stabilize the legal supply chain, and helps with odor risk management, fewer peaks from storage, quicker turnover. While fiscal outcomes are not necessarily a finding, the board is aware of declining cannabis revenue countywide, as covered extensively in the Santa Barbara Independent and Santa Maria Times. Increased compliant throughput helps maintain lawful, stable supply chains, as mentioned, jobs, turns inventory into taxable gross receipts more quickly, all without adding external impact. A well-staffed, camera-covered, access-controlled building is safer and more controllable with staff on site continuously, then compressing all handling into a narrow daytime window. Extending hours is a compliance tool for us, which reduces backlogs and improves oversight in the very building designed for it. Quickly addressing likely concerns and some concerns I've heard, more hours will mean more odor for the processing building. It is the exact opposite. Odor correlates with dwell time, as mentioned, in handling queues. More flexible shifts shorten both. Carbon filtration and OIP procedures apply identically day and night. To the night work will disturb neighbors' objection. There is no change to exterior lighting. I do acknowledge the glare, as mentioned earlier. We would like to mitigate that. No new outdoor equipment and no added nighttime public traffic. Activity stays inside the processing building. Again, no loading. I think we discussed a loading area in the processing building. There would be no loading. There would be no outbound shipments. Everything must be contained within the processing building. After hours operations increase risk. I'd like to address that as well. Explosions in El Monte and Irwindale were referenced for some reason in the public comments. Those were illegal manufacturing operations in LA County. We do not perform and are not licensed to perform any volatile or non-volatile extraction. Our operation is extremely sterile, boring, austere. It's just an agricultural processing operation. So in conclusion, county records show a compliant OAP focused on the processing building with verified controls, state-level systems in place in the operation, ready for continuous operation, and quantifiable odor risk reduction by shortening dwell time. There is no evidence of a new external impact tied to allowing interior work at night, and there is clear evidence of public benefit and compliance. With respect, we ask you to deny the appeal and affirm staff's approval of continuous processing operations inside the processing building, subject to whatever conditions offered. Thank you for consideration. I will note that I am sensitive and respectful to ongoing legal proceedings and concerns in the community. I'm not a legal representative, nor am I read in on the details. I therefore cannot and won't comment on any legal proceedings. And respectfully, those proceedings are separate issues, belong to the courts, and should not govern this decision under Chapter 50. I would also like to be abundantly clear that I welcome the opportunity to build a constructive relationship with the appellants. We've never met until today, and if they wish, I will happily schedule a guided site orientation with the county oversight to discuss operations, complaint pathways, and what good faith resolution looks like in practice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't leave the podium. We have a couple of questions. Commissioner Reed?
Got a couple. Mr. Warner, thank you for a very, very comprehensive presentation. How long have you been associated with Valley Crest? I know you said that, but I didn't catch it.
Since October of 2023.
Okay, since October 2023. Now, what exactly are the activities that occur during processing?
Sure. So harvested material is brought out of the greenhouses into the processing building where it is cured and dried and graded for sale. So things are sifted into what we'll call A grade, B grade, and trim, as well as smalls, just different grades and sizes of the plant. We are separating waste from sellable material. We're storing. So the plant is just in different phases of curing, drying, bucking, grading, storage, and then eventually evaluation and sale to the market.
Okay, so when product leaves the processing room, is it in a bulk form or is it packaged for final sale?
It is packaged for final sale, picked up by a licensed distributor.
At the retail level? It's like what would go to the dispensary?
There will be at least 2 more steps in the supply chain as required before it gets to a retail dispensary.
Okay, so that's what you have, and as you stated, no extractions by gas or solvent, none of those processes.
None of those processes.
All right. So in your presentation, you said the goal of this application is simply to enable employing 20 people to work in the processing during the overnight hours.
Correct.
Is that what you said?
Yep, I believe our CDP permits no more than 70 people total on site.
Okay, but you realize that description bears little resemblance to what the application is for, since it asks for 3 shifts a day, up to 70 people per shift. So that obviously you might be able to understand our level of confusion
Yep.
in that the proposed project is immensely larger than just allowing 20 more people to work in an enclosed structure overnight.
I'm not sure where the miscommunication was with the planning staff, but we are proposing no change to the current 70-person allotment stretched over 24 hours. Realistically, as mentioned, we don't have more than 15 people on site. I don't know that we've ever had more than 70 people on site.
So your growing and cultivation operations within the greenhouse, they're still going to be limited. What is that going to be? Is that going to be on 2 shifts, or is it going to remain on a daytime shift? And how many people?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, right now, you're going 6 in the morning till 7 in the afternoon in the greenhouse operation, your cultivation?
7 to 3:30.
Excuse me?
7 to 3:30. That's the only
7 to
shift we have.
3:30 with 70 people.
Up to?
Up to 70.
We're allowed up to 70. We have never had, I wish we could find 70 great people. On average, we have about 14, 15 folks.
Okay, so if whatever form of this application were granted and you get your 20 people who can work overnight in processing, what's going to be going on in the greenhouse?
Absolutely nothing.
You're still going to have, are you still going to have a single daytime shift? Or are you going to have that afternoon shift from 2 to 10 at night?
No, the intent is not to expand our greenhouse operations or hours at all.
So you have
the
just
overnight shift would not be allowed to do any cultivation activity or harvesting activity whatsoever.
So your view is one daytime shift up to 70 people working in the greenhouse, and then the ability to have 24-hour a day, 20 people working in the processing building.
No.
Is that what you're proposing?
We are proposing to leave the 70-person allotment unchanged, which
Okay.
is for the entire premises, is my understanding. So that's both
Okay.
greenhouse and the
Okay.
processing building, because it's a living, breathing operation throughout the day. Once that 3:30 p.m. shift is over and no more greenhouse activity is occurring, we anticipate needing 15 folks overnight in processing solely. So
Okay.
should be no change to the existing 70, which we are allowed.
Which is far different and would appear to be less impactful project than what we have here.
I do think there's been some miscommunication. I think what we're proposing reduces noise, light, and odor, and the intensity of any traffic as well. So
Okay.
there's just some incongruence here.
Well, you did answer one other enormous question, because a couple of us, we were actually wondering why anybody would propose something that looked like it had prospects of tripling your labor costs with no increase in output. So I appreciate the clarity you provided, and with that, I will be quiet.
Commissioner Park?
I'm still struggling to understand your reasoning for wanting to do this at all. So you're limited to 70 employees total, and you're telling us that those 70 employees, if they're there in your current hours, can't get the work done, so some of them need to stay late to work further?
Yeah, first I'm saying we've never had 70 employees on site. We're always working under capacity from that perspective. I think the data that I reviewed just this morning is, again, that we're averaging 15 people per one shift a day. With a 15,000-pound inventory, 4,000-pound backlog, and we're processing 300 pounds per shift per day with those 15 people.
So you'd like to get up to the 70 employees, so it'd be easier to process all that, right?
I think we understand we'll never get to 70. The available labor pool statewide, countywide, industry-wide is just not there. So we're making necessary adjustments as operations do. So we'd like to be able to increase our available sellable inventory by processing overnight and selling throughout the day, as we already do.
Now, those 15 people you want to hire for the overnight shift, if you could hire them during the day to supplement the ones you already have, couldn't that deal with your inventory? And also be easier to hire them because it's during the day?
I'm not sure. Realistically, and I don't make hiring decisions. We do have our operations manager here. If you'd like to speak in greater detail with her, realistically, I'd imagine some of these folks are working multiple shifts. I don't imagine 15 new folks coming in every day. I'd imagine maybe the afternoon shift stays for the night shift. Again, I don't know. I can't really speak to those details. But I don't think it's realistic that we have 15 folks in one shift, 15 brand new folks in the second shift, and another 15 brand new folks in the night shift. The labor availability is just not there.
Of course, you'd be paying enormous amounts of overtime if they were working 2 shifts, wouldn't you?
I can't speak to wages. I'm sorry, I'm the compliance guy.
Let me switch gears for a moment. I'm now remembering these projects. I think with Ceres and Valley Crest, you have 2 different operators with the same property owner. The Van Wingerden family owns the land under your project and also under Ceres. That's your understanding as well, right?
Correct.
And you're here to represent Valley Crest, correct?
Correct.
To your knowledge, is anyone here to represent the Van Wingerden family that owns the property?
Not to my knowledge.
And are you required in your lease to get their approval to operate these additional hours?
We are.
And do you have that?
We do. That's part of the county process.
Well, is there? I haven't seen anything in writing at all relating to what the property owners want to do here or not, and I'm a little concerned about that.
I would direct you to planning staff. I filled out the forms. I got Alex's and Case's signatures, and
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
And also, that I repeat what Mr. Reed said. It was an excellent presentation.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions? This seems way more complicated than it probably needs to be. I think what I'm hearing you say, and just if you can confirm this, since we're in the Q&A part of it here, is that you don't want to have more than 70 employees per 24-hour period. You just want to take some of your day shift people and use them at night. So the real crux is just a request to extend your operating hours from, like the project description says. And I hope you've actually read this memo from August 11th for our consideration, which has your conditions of approval, scheduled per 8-hour from 6 to 10 and 2 p.m. to 10 to include another shift of 10 to 6. So, I mean, it's just one sentence in the project description that probably needs to be clarified. So it might be that we can work it out in terms of that clarity, but there are other issues that the application has brought up, as you've heard this morning from the appellants and you've seen in the written record. So you're fine with 70 per 24-hour period total. You just want to distribute them from including a 10 to 6 shift, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, that's my only question. And I think what we do now is we go back to staff to respond to any Q&A or things brought up, and then, or if you don't have anything else to add at this point, staff, then we would go to public comment. Does staff want to?
Madam Chair,
Interject.
Commissioner, I think we can go to public comment. I think before we conclude today, we just want to be clear on what the project description is. I think we're getting closer, but I'll leave it alone until we get through the public comment period.
Okay. All right, I have 5 speaker slips. Let me double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speaker slips of people here in the room, and how many online? Anybody?
We have 2 people online. If you'd like to provide public comment on this item, go ahead and raise your virtual hand so we can get a count of how many people would like to speak on this item. At least one.
At least one. Okay.
Maybe
so
2. Oh, 2.
We'll
Both, yes.
plan accordingly for 6 or 7 people, and if the public comment can keep their remarks to 3 minutes each, we will time for you. So we're going to begin with, oh boy, here we go. Oh, Lionel Neff, to be followed by Paul Roberts, I think? Okay, so Mr. Neff, if you can approach, and then if Mr. Roberts can be ready to hop up after that.
Good morning, Commissioners.
And if everyone could just begin with their name, sometimes helps if we know where you live or what property you're representing too. But
Well, I was just going to say good morning.
okay.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Lionel Neff. I've been a Carpinteria resident for 37 years. I'm a board member of the Santa Barbara Coalition for Responsible Cannabis, and I stand here today to state the coalition's position on this matter. At first, I found it odd that the Building and Safety would issue this permit, not knowing all the background with what has been occurring with Valley Crest. So I want to bring to light what in fact is happening. Valley Crest to date has not installed nor operated an adequate odor abatement system. The Fogco vapor phase system used occasionally has not satisfied even the minimum requirements for odor abatement. Now, they're using the Fogco on the cultivating side. Now, Valley Crest has been fined for this infraction, yet continues to operate. Now, they're saying that they're using a multi-level carbon scrubber. The only really good carbon scrubber is the Invinity one, the one from Holland. Now, what I understand they're using is the Canfield, which is not and does not meet the requirements that are being set forth by the county. And you were also asking questions about the lawsuit. Well, Valley Crest is a defendant in a class action lawsuit brought against them by the Santa Barbara Coalition for Responsible Cannabis on behalf of the Hahn and Bliss families for the horrible odors emanating from the Valley Crest cannabis grows. The odor is untenable, has impacted the health and income stream of the Hahns and health and enjoyment of the Bliss family property. Now, the status of the lawsuit was, it was a class action before Judge Anderle, and under the circumstances, him thinking that the actions on the part of Valley Crest were egregious at best, he certified the class action, and that gave us the opportunity to include more plaintiffs. In fact, the plaintiffs were expanded to a mile radius around Valley Crest, and that increased it to approximately 300 plaintiffs now.
Okay. Mr. Neff, I just want to remind you, you have about 45 seconds, and also we can't do anything about the class action
Well, I
lawsuit.
understand, but
Okay.
I just want you to know that it isn't a simple thing. I mean,
Okay.
it is a major, major lawsuit. You also brought up Alex and the two Van Wingerdens. Alex is serious. He has settled with us. We had a lawsuit against them originally, as well as one against Valley Crest. They settled. They actually purchased 4 of the Invinity scrubbers for each acre. So they put in 36 scrubbers, and they're going to expand based on testing. So that's what has occurred in that particular instance. And I've also heard from many cannabis growers who I talk to all the time in the Carpinteria Valley, because we're all working on technology to get this stuff put in place in a timely manner. And they're very concerned about what's going on with Valley Crest because it reflects on them. And they're very concerned about the deplorable conduct which reflects badly upon them individually and the industry in general.
Okay, your time is up, actually.
My
ma'am.
time is up? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
sorry.
thank you.
Okay, Paul Roberts. And Mr. Roberts will be followed by Jill Stasinos.
Good morning, I'm Paul Roberts. I live on the other end of 192 and have lived in the Carpinteria Valley for almost 40 years. I've appeared before you before in connection with cannabis and associated matters, and I have certain concerns with respect to this. First, I would hope that you would give great credibility to the appellants because of their history in the Valley. These families have a commitment to this community as a neighborhood, and I hope that as part of the planning process that you give great weight to what they've spoken with respect to preservation of Carpinteria. That's been affected and negatively impacted by Valley, and there's objective evidence to that because it's not a casual occurrence. There's a class action lawsuit that's been filed against Valley that they don't want to do this. Nobody wants to do this. They settled with Sarah's. But you've heard, and no offense to the representative of Valley Crest today, but this is the first time that there's been any outreach from them to address this history of grievances, and the idea that we're still here talking about a misting system that's in their grow house is a little shocking to me. I went back and looked at old independent articles from 3 and 4 years ago where it was Valley Crest talking about the benefits of the misting system, and there's a deadline in March 26 before the Board of Supervisors. I have high level of concern that Valley Crest is going to meet that deadline. I'm here to encourage you to give great credibility to the appellants because they're doing this at sacrifice. They're trying to preserve our community. When it comes to the traffic and the number of employees, I find that the applicant's position today is confusing. I don't think it's been your questions have been adequately answered. I think there will be traffic impact with respect to overnight. And the other thing is so I'm at the other end of 192 and we're addressing a processing plant there and trying to meet with G&K and address some of our concerns, and I appreciate what they're trying to do. The fact that that the Valley hasn't done that, I've spoken to. I have a concern that if you permit a 24-hour processing, we're going to hear it from others because they're going to come in here and say, well, look, these guys got to do it. We have the same concerns, and I would ask you to consider whether or not they just didn't adequately have a business plan to process. That's one thing. And secondly, I have a high level of concern with respect to the transfer of product to the processing, because we've spoken before, meaning your commission, about the airtight doors and what comes out of a door when it opens, and transferring plants, whatever they call them, to the processing. That door is open. That door is protected only by a misting system. That stuff is going to leak out at the night when they're bringing their plants over to the processing system. And I'm very, very concerned that that's not adequately addressed in the plan. And I think there's just too much confusion in order to really for you to have a full and complete record. And I think the appeal should be upheld, or you should continue it for further hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Tessinos, and she will be followed by Anthony Brown.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jill Stasinos, and I'm here to speak in favor of the appeal to not allow Valley Crest cannabis operational hours to be increased to 24 hours daily, 7 days a week. Such an increase in hours would be incompatible with any agricultural or residential neighborhood. An increase in operational hours would most definitely increase the amount of noise made by workers coming and going to the cannabis site at all hours of the day and night. Additionally, the amount of light and air pollution would be increased as cannabis production is ramped up. Santa Barbara County doesn't have adequate personnel to monitor and enforce Valley Crest operators' compliance with their permitting agreements on a 24-hour 7 days a week basis. Valley Crest operators have already been fined by Santa Barbara County for not complying with their odor abatement plan. Valley Crest neighbors have complained that Valley Crest operators are not good neighbors and have filed a lawsuit against the operators for the malodors emanating from the cannabis grown and processed there. Please listen to Valley Crest neighbors by voting to support their appeal and deny increasing Valley Crest's cannabis operational hours to 24 hours daily, 7 days a week. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Anthony Brown, and then our last speaker will be Ana Carrillo. Oh, actually, before we go online, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Brown, and I am a fifth-generation Carpinterian living at 6200 Casitas Pass Road, Carpinteria. I don't know if we can put up the slide number 4, but I would, if that's possible, I'd like to show my location.
You can continue to talk. I'll bring it up.
Yeah. We paused at 2:41.
I'm going to walk over and point to where I live.
Okay. Thank you.
The parcel I live on is approximately 400 feet east of the Valley Crest lease and unfortunately downwind from Valley Crest. It doesn't appear that Valley Crest cares about this community one way or the other regarding the negative impacts of their operations. For them to want to extend the daily operation hours to 24/7, again, shows their lack of consideration for the neighborhood. Valley Crest has chosen to pay the fine for not installing carbon scrubbers rather than care about the neighborhood and installing them. They don't seem to even care about their own reputation as a business. It's not right that they disrespect the law and the neighborhood as they are now, and are you considering to let them run day and night, 7 days a week? One of the many problems in the cannabis ordinance is allowing a weak fine to be paid in lieu of odor compliance and installing carbon scrubbers. Does this mean you aren't getting their attention by not charging enough? I want to thank you, the county, for trying to improve a very flawed ordinance. But allowing an operation to run 24/7 is not going in the right direction. This 24/7 request is incompatible land use for our neighborhood. I have two questions that came up during the discussions. One is, how many employees does the fire department allow in the processing building? It probably has a capacity, and I'm just curious about that. And another very interesting little entry that came from staff was that some of the employees and in the 2 shifts that are proposed for the night will be coming on bicycles, or possibly coming on bicycles. Interesting. It's a dark rural road. Maybe the headlights from fellow workers will help them along the road. Maybe they've got good lights on their bike. Maybe they'll get hit and run over and killed. I don't know. But it's kind of dangerous. I want to thank you for giving this consideration today.
Thank you. Okay, that's everyone in the room. No, we've got Anna Carrillo. I'm sorry. Miss Carrillo.
She's
Okay.
online. Yeah.
All right. So she's one of our online? Great.
So just, I noticed that we do have someone joining us via telephone. If you'd like to speak on this item, it's *9 to raise your hand to indicate that you want to speak. So that being said, our first online speaker will be Anna Carrillo, to be followed by Lake Smith.
And at that point, I don't want to accept any more public comment speakers, so. Okay, Ms. Carrillo.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think so. I'm Anna Carrillo, and I unfortunately had to leave, so I didn't hear some of the discussion. I please support the appeal of these neighbors protesting the expansion of the current working hours of the cannabis operation. To my knowledge, and I've been involved in most of the cannabis appeals, nobody else has 24/7 operations. So this would set a completely new precedent, and please don't allow that. This cannabis operator has not been willing to work with the neighbors to mitigate their odors emanating from their cannabis operation. They have refused to utilize working odor prevention machines. Years ago, the Planning Commission recommended the operation install carbon scrubbers, but then the operator appealed to the Board of Supervisors, and the board at that time supported the appeal, or at that time rejected the appeal, though 6 weeks later, the neighbor, Ceres, same operator at that time, to install carbon scrubbers at the neighboring cannabis operation. Meanwhile, this operation has been sued and is now the plaintiff. You all know about that. I have walked the immediate neighbor's property. There are probably at least 5 residences, even though, it's zoned agriculture, and they have a business there. that they have not been able to operate because of the odor. So please don't let them expand their hours. And why would the county extend their hours of operation to 7 days a week, 24/7, when with the current working hours, the operation is not being a good neighbor? In addition, the addition of traffic, and it was interesting what Mr. Brown said about using bicycles at night. That is a dark road. We had to change our book club hours to have it during daylight because some of our members live on that road. And then supposedly I heard there were no shuttles that were going to be working at night. So that's, part of their transportation plan that they wouldn't be able to follow. And then please support this appeal and not approve the extension of their working hours. And unfortunately, at one point I heard that there were 70 employees per shift. I think maybe that would make 210 employees. And please don't set a new precedent for working 24/7. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. And do we have one more person?
Yes, our last raised hand is Lake Smith.
Yes, hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for the time. I'll keep this short and sweet. Just want to state, I don't have a financial stake in this matter, but I do care very deeply about how we use our civic processes and how they reflect our county's values, and especially just given the broader kind of political backdrop of this era. My mother-in-law is a longtime CARP resident, medical cannabis user, so I'm an advocate of a legal and regulated cannabis industry, but with sensible rules and a nuanced conversation in that direction. So I do feel that the appellant's claims are a bit unsubstantiated. And as I've been following this issue closely, reading the staff reports, public comments, and even some of the local coverage, I can't help but notice something troubling. Much of the rhetoric in opposition to this project seems less like a targeted concern around a single farm and more like a throwback to the Reagan era reefer madness fear-based framing that does not align with the spirit of legalization that California and the county of Santa Barbara has been known for and voted for in the past. From the county's own records, it's not clear that this farm is the sole or even significant source of the odor. In fact, it appears they may not even be emitting the odor beyond their property line at all, which raises a fair question. Are we here to address an actual violation, or is this appeal being weaponized as a proxy fight against the cannabis industry at large? As I've heard, there is also a class action lawsuit. If it's the latter, then it's not only unfair to this operator, but it's a misuse of the very process meant to ensure fairness. The net benefit of allowing this farm to operate is straightforward: continued legal operation, regulated supply chain, additional tax revenues, potential job benefits that support public services in our county. I just want to thank you guys for the time, and that's all I have to say.
Mr. Smith, hang on. Can you tell us where do you live? Are you there? No?
Excuse me, I do not. My mother-in-law lives in Carpinteria.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, I think that concludes our public comment period, and we would, what exactly, Mr. Wilson?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, the next step in the process would be to have rebuttals from the appellant and applicant. However, before we do that, I would request that based on the applicant's response to questions, that we bring up the project description that clarify or portrays what the applicant suggested. And then we can have some questions as far as the project description. And then that will allow the appellants and applicant to provide any rebuttal to the project description.
Okay, and we're at 20 minutes to noon, and I think there are some people that are trying to finish this before having to take a lunch break. So let's bring up the project description, and then in forewarning, I'm going to ask the appellant and applicant to limit their rebuttal remarks to less than 5 minutes.
I don't understand what we're doing. This is the project description that we're considering today, or this is a new one?
Commissioner Bradley, through the chair, we're clarifying the number of employees in the project description. So we have amended the project description with the font shown in bold and underlined. We've added in that language to clarify that with this proposal, there would be a total of 70 employees throughout the day that would be used on site.
Okay, the reason I asked my question is, we're here for a project today, and that project very clearly says, I just looked at it, you can read it, that it's 70 per shift. And this is a very important change.
So Madam Chair and Commissioners, to Commissioner Park's comment, there was some confusion on how that 70 employees was being allocated. Based on the applicant's comments, we would recommend the applicant confirm this is what they're requesting is 70 over a 24-hour period. Once we get the applicant to confirm that, the question for the commission is, does the commission, based on this project description, want to grant 70 employees over a 24-hour period? The alternative is that the applicant could voluntarily reduce the overnight number of employees to a certain number. So that way you wouldn't have potentially 70 people overnight. Because the way this reads is you could have 70 at any given time.
Commissioner Reed.
If you look at the center of that thing, it says, it's got the same, I think, erroneous wording the original one did. The overnight hours, 10 to 2 and 2 to 6. Isn't overnight 10 to 6? You're writing it, it's written there like it's back to that old split shift, which I think was an error from the beginning.
Well, the 10 to 6 is now in there, though, as the
Yeah,
bolded.
you need to take out anything after 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Yeah, look at that. It's right in the center of the paragraph.
Well, that's just defining the third shift, correct?
Yeah, it says the overnight hours 10 to 2 and 2 to 6. Well, no, the overnight hours are 10 to 6, not 10 to 2 and 2 to 6.
Oh, I see.
Thank you,
That's that
Commissioner Reed.
old
We
split
can
shift
update that now.
language.
That's just a
Yeah,
typo.
okay.
Okay, got it.
Can I say something else?
Yeah, and I just want to, so point of order, this is really unfortunate that the applicant and staff didn't work this out ahead of time. You understand why it's so unfortunate. We have an option here to continue the item so this gets cleaned up, but we're trying to do it right now before noon, which is not a good time to do it, but we're doing our best, right? So I appreciate Commissioner Park's question mark, and I'm okay trying to hash this through. We do it with a lot of projects. It's just that this is a really important part of the topic. So with that, I'm open to the commission's decision.
If I might, this feels like we're trying to rebuild the engine during the middle of a race. I think it would benefit from more time and reflection and consultation to come up with a product description that more accurately reflects what Mr. Warner voiced here today.
Okay, and so we're at, where we were was actually response to the public comment, right, by staff and also the appellant and the applicant. So we have two portions of the hearing that we're supposed to finish. Staff is giving this to everybody to consider in those remarks. So I suggest that maybe we continue with the hearing at that point and then bring it back to the commission for deliberation, including our reaction to the revised conditions as well as whatever we hear from the appellant and the applicant in these next steps. Can we go forward on that?
And if I heard you correctly,
Sure.
you're talking about continuing this hearing to another date?
I'm just talking about the next two steps today, which is hearing back from the appellant and the applicant, responding to public comment. That's how we normally do the appeal hearings. And then it comes back to us for deliberation. And at that point, yes, we can choose to continue it. We can choose to hash through the revised project description. So let's just finish the hearing at this point.
Okay, so are we dealing with this revised project description, trying to wordsmith it now? or
I
not?
think I would suggest that we defer that until after the appellant and the applicant have their time to respond to public comment,
Yeah,
to keep the hearing in order.
Just to make one more example of the ambiguity here, following up Commissioner Reed, I think most people would consider 2 p.m. not to be in the nighttime hours, but they would consider 10 p.m. to be in the nighttime hours. So a shift from 2 to 10 is at least partially in the nighttime hours, and we have to refer to that as well when you talk about overnight hours. So this will need a lot of work.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner, I agree. I think let's just finish the hearing. I think we're getting lost in these 3-hour shift blocks. Really, and Chair Biley said it accurately, their request is to extend the original permit from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m., which is a 24-hour period. That's really what they're asking. We're getting caught up in the weeds on how we're dividing a 24-hour period. So I'm just trying to help focus the commission, and I agree. This on-the-fly amendments is causing more confusion. So I recommend let's get the rebuttals from the appellant and the applicant. We know that the applicant has said they don't want to increase over 70. So that's where we're at right now. We can get rebuttals and then bring it back, as Chair Briley said, and decide how we want to finish the day.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so that means that the next point of order is the appellant has a moment to actually address any comments that were provided during public comment. It was mostly the appellant's side of it, so you could choose to take that time or defer it. You have 5 minutes now.
Thank you. All I want to add is I think the focus here should be on overnight. The incompatibility with our area is overnight operations. And I don't know since when it's become acceptable to have overnight operations allowed in our rural agricultural residential area. And I just want to impress upon you, this is a first. It's a completely new precedent. And I ask you, what is the compelling reason? I have not really heard a compelling reason as to why this is necessary. And why is it needed, are they requesting it, but no other cannabis operators are asking for it? The reason is they don't know our community. The other cannabis growers know this is unacceptable within our community to all of a sudden have overnight processing operations. But rest assured, you get one operation with overnight operations. You know, business is business, capitalism is capitalism, and I wouldn't blame it. Everybody's going to be at your doorstep asking for overnight operations. And it will forever change the nature of our valley. So thank you. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say.
I would just say more to that. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 people or 70 people. It's overnight. And it has been a problem since they've moved in. And who's going to monitor? Who's going to say, oh, you have 2 people, you have 70, these people are this truck is coming in then? Who's going to do that? And how much of the cost is going to be borne by the county people to enforce this stuff? I think Tim is right. We really have to think about it as precedents and everything else. It's not compatible with our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
the applicant also has 5 minutes to respond to public comment, and we're supposed to be focusing on stuff that was raised during the public comment period. So there you go.
I don't know where to start here. I respect all of the opinions heard here and the emotions expressed here today. I want to be clear about that. I think we have to separate the factual record from anecdotal things. Definitely understand. I'm not going to sit here and deny that there's odor in the air in Santa Barbara County. I'd be a psycho to do that. I think what's up for debate and what is not on the county record is that odor is being emanated from our property. The records say exactly the opposite. Would agree that maybe VCF has not been the best neighbor in the past. My hiring and me being here is an indication of a desire to kind of stem that tide and turn the page there and reset the relationship. That's been my focus since October 2023. I met with the county executive's office, the sheriff, planning, all on site in October of 2023 to kind of express the same thing. So my intent is to build that bridge and to hopefully be an open ear going forward to address these complaints, good faith complaints. And yeah, so again, so the facts are what they are in the record. We are compliant. I'm not sure what fines folks are referring to that we're paying in lieu of maintaining compliance with the OAP. So I'm a little confused on certain things I've heard. I don't know how to respond to non-factual statements. There will be no transfer of product again from harvest or out, so in or out. No concerns about open doors and venting. This is an attempt to reduce any would-be odor impact, although I don't agree that there is any odor impact from processing. It's undocumented. I think I've read that the board agrees. Generally, processors are low-impact operators. That would be the case here. We intend to be discreet. To answer your question about compliance, that is my job. I was brought in specifically to oversee compliance and hold folks accountable, which we've done a great job of in the last 24 months. When I started in 2023, we were facing a notice of intent to suspend, and I'm proud that we've corrected that record, and my intent is to continue to move in the right direction with you all, with the county. Not much more to say. It's a very simple request to generate more tax revenue for the entire county to help address an odor backlog or a backlog that may be contributing to odor. So just pulling in the same direction. I echo everything everyone said. Don't want to be here as an adversary. And we certainly do care about your community. I think it's a beautiful place. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Madam Chair, can we have the applicant confirm this project description is the correct project description?
I believe so. So no change to the existing CDP from an employee standpoint. I do agree we are getting bogged down by the shift structure, which was kind of dictated to me by planning staff. I think I'm not married to that shift structure, and I'd imagine that if we're collaborating on this solution, that the appellants would maybe like to see different shifts as well. I think we're open to that. So I don't want to be married to the shift structure, but we definitely do not want more employees on site. I believe this is accurate.
Okay, that helps. We have one question for you from Commissioner Reed.
Actually, it's two. Oh, Mr. Warner, what's your first name?
Benjamin.
Benjamin, okay, thank you. Secondly, I have a question. It is, what's preventing Valley Crest from doing additional processing during the daytime hours? Is it a space problem or what? Why couldn't they find extra space in that processing structure to increase their ability to process during daytime hours without going to it at night shift?
Probably just headcount. Again, we have, I don't want to put her on the spot, but she can speak in more detail about our operations, but I believe just headcount, not having the availability during that 7 to 3:30 shift to address the persistent oversupply that we have. And oversupply isn't the best word. That implies there's not demand for the product. There is. It's just a glut because of a backlog that we cannot address.
So it's not a limitation imposed by the size of that structure?
No.
Not that I would expect building a new building or an addition, because I know that would lead to years of
No, we're not even operating at full
problems.
capacity in terms of the building. I think we're still working through some permitting things to change rooms from administrative space to additional curing and drying. So we have additional capacity
So
to process.
if you had the proper staffing, you could accomplish that increased processing during the daytime.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Likely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Park, did you have a question?
This will be real quick. So how understaffed are you? I mean, if you could have 70, you'd like to have them. What do you have? Do you have 50? Do you have 20? Do you
I
Just give
think
us a ballpark.
I'll speak today, I think we have close to 50 folks in total on the site. So that's between 4 greenhouses as well as processing. That's a great day. I'm on site, several times a month. It's very light, especially in light of recent political events.
Yeah.
So
So you're short about 20 a day from where you could be.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, where you could be legally.
Sure. I don't want to misspeak, and I also don't want to hold up the process or put Lindsay on the spot, but she can definitely speak to more detail if we want to go into.
I don't need more detail. I just wanted to know where we are. And thanks for your candor. Thank
Sure.
you. Bye-bye.
That's all. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so we've concluded both the rebuttal times, so it's to deliberations by the commission. I know we have a revised project description. The applicant has confirmed that he's comfortable with that, and I think that we can just go into deliberations. So who wants to begin? Commissioner Reed.
Every time we get a cannabis one, I know it's a very complex process. I think we have a population of greenhouse growers that, if left to their own devices, would still be happily producing cut flowers and nursery flowers, but for government action years ago with respect to tariffs that changed the landscape on them, so they had to look for alternate streams of income. Hence, looking toward cannabis. I can really sympathize with neighbors who've been in an area, some for generations, and never signed up to be next to a cannabis operation. But I also, respect the rights of people to bring their property to the highest and best level of use. I actually started out, my first major in college was horticulture. I admire the industry, and I respect the challenges you're faced with. I also respect the fact that originally what's proposed here could potentially be a very significant increase to the size of an operation and the impacts on neighbors that deserve consideration. What I'm left with, though, when we had presentation from Mr. Warner, indicating that the real project they would like is much, much different from what we have here, I find that I'm in a quandary. I don't really know that I could approve the appeal, because it's an appeal on a project that appears to be vastly different than the modest one Mr. Warner speaks about. I certainly can't move forward with this application because it's very flawed with respect to project description. So what I'm left with is recommending or proposing it be continued until such time as a revised project description for a much, much more modest project, which is what Mr. Warner was talking about, be considered. And I'd also like to hear of a comprehensive examination of operations on part of the operator to determine if their goal of having greater processing capacity could be realized within the present daytime operating hours. I think that would be the best. But at the minimum, I would think the only thing I would be comfortable with today, coming from a science and data-based environment, would be proposing a continuance until the goals I just spoke of could be met.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Park?
I would go along with a continuance motion, but I still want to express where I am today on the project, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I'm not convinced that a continuance will give us more useful information. I can't support this project. And my concern is not about it being cannabis and odor. My concern is about this being a manufacturing concern in a rural area along a 2-lane road. We have all sorts of policies about protecting agriculture. Agriculture is growing the cannabis, I think. Manufacturing it is a supporting use, and we allow supporting uses in our zoning code in ag areas, but it's not the same thing as agriculture. And I look at policy 1E, which Mr. Connor very appropriately put into the staff report, and it deals with noise, odor, et cetera, occasioned relating to agriculture and what are reasonable practices to deal with it, things that impact agriculture. And there is agriculture in the surrounding area. It's all agriculture, including Ms. Delarmy's Rose Farm, which I think has suffered with Valley Crest, but I hope it's still there. So focusing on the concerns of overnight operation of a manufacturing business, first thing I look at is credibility, because that's been brought up both by proponents of the appeal, but also by some of the people that oppose the appeal, that the applicants aren't credible because they're just, or not, the appellants are not credible. They're just complainers, they're whiners, there's something wrong with them, and that's standard practice when you're dealing with appeal, is you try to dismiss the character of the appellants. It doesn't fly with me. I think in my role, I've spent a lot of time in the courtroom, Mr. Roberts has as well, and we always want a judge who's never met anybody before, has no personal knowledge. Okay, but that's not the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, we're hired here, we're brought in because we do have personal knowledge of the problems of the county, the issues of the county, the people in the county. Many years ago, in the 1980s, so that's 40 years ago, I spent a lot of time in the Carpinteria Valley dealing on land trust matters. And one of my good friends was George Bliss, so I knew the family really well. One of my good friends was Johnny Brown, who was on the Planning Commission as First District Planning Commissioner for many years. I knew a lot of these people. I have some knowledge of Ms. Delarmy. I first met her 67 years ago in kindergarten. And I'm so happy to hear your mom is still alive, because her mom and my mom would bring in cupcakes and things. And so I know these people. Does that mean I have to vote for them? No, but I take them seriously. I understand them. They're serious people. They have not been people that came in on every cannabis project and opposed it no matter what. They're talking about preserving where they live, okay, in the face of overnight operation. Let me move to overnight operation. The best way for me to express this about my concerns about overnight operation is to share some of my own experience. I, many years ago, was foreman of a local factory concern, and we would have overnight shifts from time to time when we had really big orders. Okay, it wasn't part of our normal business, but when we had really big orders. And here's what we would have. Because we don't have a prison, you can't say to people, you must come by a certain time and you can't leave until 8 hours later and no one else can come on site. That's not what happens. What you have is you have people, they get a call from home, dog is sick or child is sick, gotta run home. You get people that get sick and they gotta run home. You get people that forget their lunch, they gotta go get it. They get people that say, well, my wife is gonna bring me my lunch. Or you get people who have to go to their car to get their lunch, and they slam the doors as they open and close the doors. And in the middle of the night, when all is quiet, you hear those doors from blocks away, and you all know that. So there will be noise in this operation. There will be people coming and going, even though theoretically it's a shift from X hours to X hours. That's just life, and that's what people are going to experience. The biggest problem I have here, though, is what the heck is the need for this project? Because what we hear is, well, we need to have 15 more employees working in the night so we can deal with our inventory of product. but we're down from 70 to 50. So if they could hire 20 more people in the daytime, it's a lot easier to hire people for the daytime work than for the nighttime work, they would be able to deal with it. So I really can't understand, just in basic grade school arithmetic terms, why we need this project and why we're dealing with it. It might be interesting to try. I think if you do try it, Mr. Warner, you're going to find up getting some employees that, yeah, they'll stay for a second shift, and you'll be paying them double time, overtime. For all the issues that this is going to cause, then I don't think we have a benefit to the applicant or anybody that makes it worth it. And in fact, when there's no obvious benefit, it looks mysterious to me, and it makes me wonder, why do you want to do this when nobody else in Carpinteria in this industry wants to do it? What's really going on here? And I don't think anybody's answered that question for me today.
I'm trying to move us along to some sort of a decision. So, Commissioner Reed, did you have one question?
Yeah, 2 points. The one thing that I do get hung up a bit on, which came from appellant, is this is a precedent-setting move, no other 24-hour a day. So I think that gives additional weight to this decision. Second, despite what my esteemed colleague says about the activities in that processing house, it's abundantly clear to me it is not a manufacturing operation. It's a cleaning, sorting, and grading and packaging operation, no different than what happens in 100 other packing sheds and produce processing and growing operations throughout the county. Not that I'd want a packing shed open next to my house operating 24 hours a day either. But I think what remains is we need a much better project description, and I think the perfect solution would be for applicant during the process somehow to find the ability to do the additional processing during those daylight hours. But what I'm fixed on now is a continuance.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes, in my consideration of this matter, I'm really focused on the 24-hour situation and the changes that would actually involve to this community. And this community, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Right now, the argument is against the 24 hours, but I see that there's property owners there that are not involved in cannabis and involved in other agricultural activities and businesses. And being involved in ag law a lot, and seeing what's coming down the future, at least forecasting, I mean, I could honestly see this, if we adopted this 24-hour and rejected the appeal, and the federal government says, okay, we now recognize cannabis as not an illegal product. I guarantee you H2A would come in here and it'd be up to 70 employees. I mean, it's just a smart business move. But I also can see that in agricultural situations in the community that we're talking about in the way it's described, with people living there in their homes, is they're not there to experience a 24-hour daily, 7 days a week, okay? That's what I'm looking at it. But also for anybody in the future that's in the ag business, they're saying, well, what about drones? What about drones when I can actually have the activity for my crop? Not cannabis, but I'm going to run these drones 24 hours. I'll run them at night, it's better. There's nothing else in the air. Spray my crop, address the bug issue, whatever it comes down to. And you kind of see this in the vineyards. The vineyards do a lot of work. You see those lights going up and down the rows. But they're so rural that we really don't even, it comes into play. This situation, again, is the 24-hour situation. And again, I do see like seasonal, it's too cold. You got the windmills running with the heat to actually circulate the air. I get it. But that's intermittently. And this is 24 hours a day. And I am not in a position that would really support this project, is what I would say on that basis. Thank you.
Thank you. I love this commission. There's a lot of brain trust, and it's all really good. I I want to veer away from the concept of continuing because I agree with Commissioner Park. I don't know that that's going to get us over a hump here. And we won't have Commissioner Cooney to help split a tie. I don't support an overnight operation of any kind, of any sort. For a lot of the reasons that we've heard about, I couldn't make the findings that would be put in front of me if I was asked to. So I don't know that a continuance is going to help us because I'm still, whether it's a shift or whether it's 10 to 6 or whatever, I think it should end at 10 p.m. Absolutely. I am also cognizant that because it's a coastal development permit, because this law adopted by our Board of Supervisors before I was on this commission gives us no discretion, I still couldn't find it consistent with the comprehensive plan because there are portions in there in the ag element and in all kinds of other sections, and if I had to, I would go and find them for us. But I don't find this consistent with it in an overnight operation setting. So I think it's unfortunate that the project description has hijacked our discussion and our clarity about this matter, but that is really what it is. Whether it's 5 employees or 70 employees overnight, I don't want to see it happen overnight. So I don't think a continuance is worth it. I'd rather have a motion to uphold the appeal and put this to rest today, if we can do that. So,
Madam Chair and Commissioners,
yes.
not that I disagree with that approach.
Okay.
We don't have findings for denial, and I'm seeing
Oh, there we are.
I'm seeing there's at least 3 in support of upholding the appeal and denying the request. So I recommend that any motion be a continuance, and then to provide direction to staff on what findings you can't make, and then to come back with findings for denial. I think staff is looking at September 10th. There are no items projected for that date, and we would just have to switch the hearing location to Santa Barbara. But that's what my recommendation is to continue with direction on what findings you can't make, and then come back on September 10th with findings for denial.
Okay, so that would have to be included in the motion. Commissioner Park?
I was going to say that, but he beat me to the punch. It's sort of a have your cake and eat it too. I mean, to deny it, we have to continue it so we can get findings. As we all know from other projects, people will come back and re-argue anything and everything, and that's fair enough. So I think that we accomplish both what Commissioner Reed wants and what the others want if we have a motion like that. And I will make that motion to continue it to September 10 with staff to make to prepare findings for denial.
Very good, and I'll second that.
And Commissioner Park, through the chair, any direction, we'd appreciate direction on what findings the commission can't make, so that way we can prepare those findings for denial. And I think Commissioner Park had alluded to one of them already, so.
Yeah, the best I could come up with right now on the fly was the reference to policy 1.E, but there may be others. I'd have to frankly look over the findings that were proposed in order to.
Ag element policy 1.E, I would concur with that. And I'm not going to do more homework to give you more, sorry. Okay, so with that, I think we have a motion and a second. Do you want to do a roll call?
Commissioner Park.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
And I appreciate the wisdom.
Mike.
I appreciate the wisdom Mr. Wilson continually provides the board. I vote aye.
Commissioner Martinez.
Aye.
Chair Bridley.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we adjourned.
Yes, let's adjourn. Thank you.